Battle of Castle Itter began at a moment when World War II was already supposed to be over. Adolf Hitler was dead. Berlin had fallen. The German army was collapsing in every direction. And yet, high in the Austrian Alps, a medieval stone fortress was about to witness one of the strangest and most dangerous battles of the entire war. A battle where American soldiers and German soldiers stood on the same wall, fired the same weapons, and prepared to die together. This was not a ceasefire. This was not surrender. This was combat. The date was May 5th, 1945. Less than 3 days remained before Germany's unconditional surrender. Across Europe, units were laying down their arms. White flags hung from windows. Officers were trying to disappear. But in the Tyrolean mountains, the rules of the war had collapsed faster than the front lines. Fanatical Waffen-SS units were still roaming the forests, ignoring surrender orders, hunting anyone they considered a traitor. At the center of this chaos stood Castle Itter. Stakes. Battle of Castle Itter mattered because what happened there should have been impossible. Inside the castle were some of the most valuable prisoners in Nazi hands. Former prime ministers of France, senior generals, national symbols, men whose deaths would send shockwaves through post-war Europe. If they were killed, it would not just be murder. It would be a final political execution. A message written in blood. The SS understood this, and that was the danger. Castle Itter was not a concentration camp. It was a luxury prison, thick walls, private rooms, decent food. But it was still controlled by the SS, and the SS had one rule when defeat approached. No witnesses, no survivors. Heinrich Himmler's orders were clear. High-value prisoners were not to be liberated. They were to be erased. By early May, SS control in the region was collapsing. Commanders were fleeing. Units were splintering. Some were surrendering. Others were becoming more violent than ever. The forest around Castle Itter was crawling with elements of the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division, men who had already executed German soldiers for attempting to surrender. If the SS reached the castle first, everyone inside would be slaughtered. Main body. Act 1. The prison battle of Castle Itter begins with the men trapped inside. These were not ordinary prisoners. They were the political ghosts of France. Former Prime Minister Édouard Daladier, former Prime Minister Paul Reynaud, General Maxime Weygand, once the head of the French army, Jean Borotra, a world-famous tennis champion turned national icon. They were enemies of Nazi Germany, but they were also enemies of each other. For years they argued inside the castle. Politics, blame, betrayal. The SS guards watched them bicker like caged lions. By May 4th, 1945, the guards were no longer confident. The SS commander at the castle understood what defeat meant: arrest, trial, execution, or worse. And he also understood something else. The Americans were coming, and the SS divisions in the forest were not under control. So the guards fled. They abandoned Castle Itter without a fight. Freedom arrived suddenly, and with it, terror. The French prisoners were no longer guarded, but they were also no longer protected. Outside the walls, SS patrols were already moving. Anyone attempting surrender was being shot. Anyone trying to escape was being executed. The castle had become an island surrounded by enemies. The prisoners armed themselves with what the guards left behind: rifles, pistols, a few boxes of ammunition. But they were politicians, old men, symbols, not soldiers. They needed help, immediately. Main body. Act 2. The German who refused Battle of Castle Itter takes its first impossible turn a few miles away. In the nearby town of Würgel, a Wehrmacht officer named Major Josef Gangl was waiting for the end. Gangl was not SS. He was a professional soldier, a veteran of the Eastern Front, and he was done. He knew the SS planned to destroy the town, blow the bridges, force civilians into a last stand, turn defeat into massacre. Gangl had already made his choice. He would not die for the Nazis. Then a message arrived. A Czech cook from the castle had slipped through SS lines on a bicycle. His warning was simple and horrifying. French WWII prisoners. Trapped. SS approaching. Gangl understood immediately what this meant. If the SS reached Castle Itter, the prisoners would be executed, and Germany's name would carry that stain forever. He did not have enough men to fight the SS. He did not have time to wait. So he did the unthinkable. He raised a white flag. Gangl climbed into his Kubelwagen and drove toward the American lines, not to surrender, but to ask for help. Quick reminder, this video isn't free. The price is simple. Hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It tells the algorithm this story matters. Main body, Act 3. The American Gamble Battle of Castle Itter now collides with American armor. 8 miles away, elements of the 12th Armored Division had reached the town of Kufstein. Leading a reconnaissance unit was Captain John Jack Lee, a tank commander with a cigar clenched in his teeth and confidence to match. Loud, aggressive, fearless. His Sherman tank was named Besotten Jenny. When a German officer approached under a white flag, Lee assumed it was a trick. Then the officer saluted. Gangl explained everything. Broken English, urgent gestures, French leaders, SS coming. Need help now? It sounded insane. An American captain, a German major, fighting together, behind enemy lines, with almost no support. Lee listened, studied the map, chewed his cigar. Then he made the call. "All right," he said. "Let's go get them." He radioed headquarters and informed them he was launching a rescue mission with German assistance. His superiors thought he had lost his mind, but time mattered more than protocol. Lee took 2 tanks, 7 infantrymen, and Gangl's small group of Wehrmacht soldiers. 1 American tank leading, 1 German truck following. They drove straight into SS territory. By nightfall, the road to Castle Itter was already under fire, and the strangest alliance of the war was heading toward its last stand. The Battle of Castle Itter takes its first impossible turn just a few miles away from the fortress. In the nearby town of Würgel, a Wehrmacht officer named Major Josef Gangl was waiting for the end. Gangl was not SS. He was a professional soldier, a veteran of the Eastern Front, and he had already seen enough. He had fought in battles across Russia, seen comrades fall, and survived carnage that had hardened him. But now, he was done with blind obedience to orders that defied humanity. Gangl knew the SS planned to destroy the town. They would blow the bridges, force civilians into a last stand, and turn Germany's defeat into a massacre. He had already made a choice. He would not die for the Nazis. His conscience left no room for hesitation. Then, a messenger arrived. A Czech cook from Castle Itter had slipped through SS lines on a bicycle. His warning was simple and horrifying. French WWII prisoners trapped, SS approaching, immediate danger. Gangl understood instantly what this meant. If the SS reached Castle Itter first, the prisoners, former prime ministers, generals, and national symbols, would be executed. It would stain Germany's name forever. Yet Gangl had no army, no reinforcements, and no time to wait. The risk was enormous, bordering on madness. but leaving the prisoners to die was not an option. He made a decision no German officer had dared to make. He raised a white flag. Climbing into his Kubelwagen, he drove toward the American lines, not to surrender, but to request help. The journey was tense. Every turn of the wheels could have been his last. The forest was crawling with SS patrols, fanatical troops who executed anyone attempting to surrender. Each mile was a test of courage and luck. By the time he reached the outskirts of Kufstein, Major Gangl was exhausted yet determined. He found American troops waiting, a reconnaissance unit of the 12th Armored Division. His appearance under the white flag initially drew suspicion. Captain John "Jack" Lee, the tank commander, eyed him warily, hand on his pistol. But Gangl saluted and explained the situation with urgency in broken English. French force IPs trapped in Castle Itter, SS forces approaching, help needed immediately. Lee paused. The request sounded insane. A German officer asking to fight alongside Americans? Behind enemy lines? With almost no support? And yet, the sincerity in Gangl's eyes left no doubt. Lee weighed the risk. Then he made the call. He would lead a rescue mission. Together they would attempt the impossible, to defend Castle Itter from a fanatical SS attack with a combined force of Americans and willing Wehrmacht soldiers. Lee radioed his headquarters. Permission granted. Gangl's small team of Wehrmacht soldiers joined the Americans. Together they prepared for the journey. Tanks loaded, rifles checked, ammunition distributed. The stakes could not have been higher. Failure meant the slaughter of France's political elite. Success meant an improbable victory for humanity amid the chaos of war. Quick reminder, if you're following this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. Every interaction tells the algorithm that stories like Castle Itter matter and deserve to be shared. With their plan set, the American tank, followed by the German convoy, began its journey toward Castle Itter. The road ahead wound through forests and mountains, territory controlled by the SS. Every shadow could hide an ambush. Every bend could signal a firefight. Yet both sides understood the mission: protect the prisoners at all costs. Courage, trust, and desperation combined as they moved forward. By the evening of May 4th, 1945, the strange alliance of American and German soldiers had left Virgil. Ahead lay the fortress, surrounded by fanatical SS troops. But behind them was the last hope for the men trapped inside Castle Itter. The gamble had begun. The Battle of Castle Itter now collides with American armor. On May 5th, 1945, 8 miles away in the town of Kufstein, elements of the 12th Armored Division reached the outskirts. Leading a reconnaissance unit was Captain John "Jack" Lee. Lee was a tank commander with a cigar clenched in his teeth, confidence in every movement, loud, aggressive, fearless. His men loved him for his boldness. His Sherman tank, named Besotten Jenny, rested nearby, ready for action. Suddenly, a German officer appeared under a white flag. Lee instinctively reached for his pistol, but the officer saluted instead. It was Major Josef Gangl. He explained in broken English and urgent gestures. French FI-IP prisoners trapped in Castle Itter, SS approaching. Immediate help required. The situation was insane. An American captain and a German major behind enemy lines, almost unsupported, preparing to fight together. Lee studied the map, chewed his cigar, and weighed the risk. Then he made the call. "All right, let's go get them." He radioed headquarters, informing them that he was launching a rescue mission with German assistance. His superiors thought he had lost his mind. But Lee understood the mission's urgency. Time mattered more than protocol. He gathered 2 tanks, 7 American infantrymen, and Gangl's small group of Wehrmacht soldiers. One American tank led the convoy, followed by a German truck carrying soldiers. They drove straight into SS-controlled territory. Every mile was tense, the winding roads lined with dense forests where SS patrols could appear at any moment. Bullets could pierce the night. Every shadow could hide a sniper. Courage and luck became their only allies. As they neared Castle Itter, the defenders inside readied themselves. French 5IP prisoners, former Prime Ministers Edouard Daladier and Paul Reynaud, General Maxime Weygand, and tennis champion Jean Borotra, took up rifles left behind by the fleeing SS guards. Though old men, symbols of a nation, they prepared to fight. The castle's walls became a barricade, the only line between them and a fanatical SS force. At dawn, May 5th, 1945, the first shots rang out. Around 150 men from the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division advanced on the castle. They carried machine guns, mortars, and anti-tank weapons. The Besotten Jenny fired, clearing the approach, while German soldiers on the walls aimed at the SS attackers. It was chaos. Former enemies now fighting side by side against a shared threat. The defenders' ammunition dwindled quickly. The SS brought forward an 88mm anti-tank gun. A shell struck Besotten Jenny, and flames engulfed the tank. The American crew bailed out just in time. Now, only rifles remained against a determined army. Captain Lee moved from position to position, calm and determined, telling his men, "They have to come through the gate, and we'll pile them up like cordwood." Major Gangl directed fire from the wall. He saw Prime Minister Paul Reynaud exposing himself in the open and shouted, "Get down!" A sniper bullet struck Gangl in the chest. He fell, the only defender killed in the battle. His sacrifice saved a French politician and marked him as a hero remembered in Austria today. The defenders were near the end of their ammunition. The SS prepared for the final assault. Jean Borotra, the tennis star, volunteered to run for help. Bullets flew around him as he sprinted across open ground, weaving between trees, until he reached the American relief column approaching the castle. At noon, the 142nd Infantry Regiment, along with additional Sherman tanks, arrived. They opened fire on the SS, forcing them to scatter into the surrounding forest. The siege was broken. Captain Lee, exhausted and blackened by smoke, smiled at the relief commander and said, "What took you so long?" The French 5IPs were safe. Within days, the war officially ended in Europe. Captain Jack Lee received the Distinguished Service Cross and returned home to New York. Major Josef Gangl was buried in Virgil and remembered as a hero who died fighting the Nazis. The Battle of Castle Itter was small in scale but extraordinary in human courage. It proved that even amid the world's greatest conflict, men could choose to do what was right. Enemies became allies. Humanity survived against impossible odds. Major Gangl died saving a French politician. Was he a traitor to Germany or a hero to humanity? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to see the story of Patton's near firing before D-Day, check out this video next.